See. Hello, hello, hello there, everyone. My name is Jessica Williams. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. This is the sort of after show of my short, My Critic, which we just watched on OV. So check it out. If you want to follow us at My Critic Movie on Instagram or Facebook, you can, and you can see the movie. We're going to be showing another screening again on Thursday. So this is the talk back where we kind of just give out information, some tidbits about struggling with an inner critic. So my name is Jessica Williams. Again, I am the filmmaker, and I want to introduce my two amazing friends slash life coaches slash everything, Tiffany Shanks and Tremaine Walker, who are some mental health experts that are going to be here helping us navigate what it's like to have an inner critic. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourself, you can. Please take it away.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Shanks. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm happy to be here and be a part of the project.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Tremaine Walker, and I'm a life coach, and I'm just thankful for this opportunity to share and talk and hear feedback about the inner critic.
Sweet. So super exciting stuff. And so we're gonna get into it. So we're navigating some screens and some things. So it's gonna be super exciting. So again, we are showing this movie exclusively. It's a short film, silent short film, which is super cool. And it's exclusively on OV, which is a pretty cool broadcasting site. Usually for public access television, but we're doing something a little different with ours. So again, we have more information for you about checking that out if you haven't watched it yet. But for the people that have watched it and are in our OV platform, I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything you guys want to know about the film. I guess I can start talking about it. So My Critic is a movie about myself and my own journey with my inner critic and I guess inner self-loathing and all of those crazy things, dealing with depression and various things of that nature. So at some point, once I mustered up the courage, thanks to my good life coach Tremaine there, we started kind of talking about why all the different reasons I was getting in my own way about various things artistically and in my life and blah blah blah, and all of that had to do with me having this battle with my inner critic, which is why if you see the film, I'm every character because it's all a version of myself and my personality. And so we started talking about, what it's like to have an inner critic, or the thoughts that come, et cetera, et cetera. And one day I decided to name my inner critic, and I named it Katrina. And I just thought it came to me on a breath of revelation or something. And Tremaine said Hurricane Katrina, and I was like, oh, I guess that makes a lot of sense. And so we started talking about this idea of having a personal inner storm, inner turmoil, and what that's like. And I think we all remember Hurricane Katrina and how devastating it was for the people in New Orleans and the damage that it left behind. I was actually just watching When the Levees Broke, the Spike Lee documentary, if anyone's ever seen that, about how devastating it was just devastating all the way around, from government agencies to the people of the city to people who lost loved ones. And so not wanting to make light of that situation, because I think it's something we all still feel and are affected by, though we've had, unfortunately, many tragedies since then as a collective country. But that we can all kind of relate to, oh, I know what that damage is. I know how a huge kind of colossal storm like that is in nature. So what is that like when it's internally? And so we started talking about that. Tremaine, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to us kind of walking through that process, since you're the licensed professional here. I'm just, a squirrel trying to get a nut.
Sure. I remember that process. And for me, Katrina was just causing a lot of destruction for you. So it made sense that it reminded me of Hurricane Katrina. And like you said, not to minimize the actual natural disaster of Hurricane Katrina, but it just made sense for what we were working on and whatnot. And I think for you, you're starting to realize that you have more control over Katrina than you give yourself credit for. And I think that's when you really started to turn the corner when you actually put her in her place instead of letting her run rampant and run wild. So
put her in her place. That's for sure. That's for sure. Tiffany, I want to, yeah, listen, it's an ongoing struggle, people. It's not, you snap your fingers one time and it's done. Tiffany Shanks, if you would like to contribute to any, I don't know if you have any clients that deal with inner critics, or if this is ever anything that comes up, if you have any sage wisdom or sage advice about this particular topic.
I think all I would like to add here is I feel like we all have an inner critic. And it's difficult to relate to that voice, that person, that sound, that noise by yourself. So I thank you, Tremaine, and I thank all the rest of the other professionals out here and whatever your area of expertise is for walking through that process with you, Jess, and with others. And I think it's important and people know that talking about it, talking about what it sounds like out loud, sharing it, telling what it means, telling what you're feeling as a result of that. It's important that you get that out and you get that out with the appropriate people. Because I think alone and in our head by ourselves, like just the enemy nonsense just creeps in. So I'm glad to hear you did that and are continuing to do that. And yes, I do see a lot in my practice of that. I do. And hopefully I'm helping to facilitate some sort of change, for the better for myself, for others, for people I have yet to see that maybe are coming in my path. Just because it can be really lonely. It can be lonely if you don't open up, if you don't let it out, if you don't explore it, if you don't talk about it, if you don't kind of pull back the skin, if you will. It's difficult at first, but like any scar, it heals over time.
Yeah, you gotta do it. It's super important.
Yeah.
And I think for me, depression is something I've struggled with for a long time, since I was a youngin', and so I was seeing a therapist earlier in my life, and then she left, not in like that's it, but she got married and sort of moved on with her life and relocated to a new city, and then I was kind of like, oh, I'm good on it, but there was still a lot of baggage and weight, life stuff, and this, that, and the third, and so I was super happy when Tremaine came into my life, and we've been working for a couple of years, and thank you for putting up with my nonsense and my foolishness, but we have a good time. And so I think in terms of, so when we talk about, depression and things of that nature, how much of because I feel like that's kind of like a big buzzword for people, like people get scared when they hear that kind of stuff. So if we're kind of talking about it in terms of maybe we're not in a full-blown depressive episode, but much like we see in the film, we have that inner voice that continues to taunt us and talk to us about either what we're doing or not doing, or what's going well or what's not going well, which can feel like, I know for me, confirmation of how I'm already feeling inside. So if I'm already feeling some type of way inside, and then, somebody either harmlessly, usually not maliciously, but, kind of makes a comment or says something or whatever, that makes the chatter become even louder. So when does it go from like, oh, we all have an inner critic and we all struggle and, it's a thing, to like, okay, this is starting to go into a darker place? Or what are some of the signs that, like, someone like myself, or maybe someone who watches this and goes, that's me, might or should be looking for, I guess? Either one of you can jump in.
Tremaine, you want to go?
Yeah. I think for me, sort of to piggyback off of what you and Tiffany said, we all deal with an inner critic, right? That kind of makes us normal, right? To deal with like working with yourself, working against yourself. Like, we have to make sure that the decisions that we make are the right decisions. Sometimes it's really hard to come to terms with actually making a decision or making a move in life, and then you have that other voice that plays a contradictory role, and that's really when the critic starts to develop. I think the critic starts to get control, or starts to get out of control, when you start losing sleep, when you start struggling with your concentration, when you start having lots of feelings of guilt, when you start not finding things of interest that you used to find. So that's sort of when depression starts to come into play and your critic sort of gets out of control. When you start feeling bad about the decisions that you even make that you would normally make. You know what I mean? When it starts to become debilitating and you can't get out of bed, or you can't do the things that you're normally supposed to do because you're always questioning yourself, that's when it's probably getting a little bit out of control.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think really just to kind of add to it, which Tremaine also already said, is when it is interfering in your ability to function. I hate to use the word normally, because who and what's really normal, but you know, when you've been doing things a certain way, and then all of a sudden this critic voice is so loud that it's interfering in all the areas that Tremaine mentioned, and then therefore you're no longer doing things the way that you used to. So when it's impairing your life, when it's causing your ability to function in what appeared like a normal way, no longer being able to do that. You know, if it's hard to get up and go to work, if it's hard, or school, or whatever you do on a full-time basis, if you will, and everything else. I don't want to repeat and waste time with that, but the sleep and the loss of interest in things, and when all those areas begin to get affected, but you feel like it's impairing you and your ability to function the way that you previously were, it would be of some concern, and I would recommend, you know, trying to look for some additional help.
So let's say we are, you know, after either watching the film or we're talking about this, and we kind of realize that we might be in a place where we're like, oh, okay, I know some of these words, as I say sometimes, like I know some of these words, I know some of these feelings. What are steps to, you know, kind of start to broach that conversation? I know with a family member, a friend, a significant other, if someone is in a therapy type situation, or like what would you guys recommend as a way to start that conversation?
Are you asking if they're already in therapy? How do they bring that up?
I mean, it's just, well, I guess let's take it from, like, if you're not in therapy, like how would you recommend somebody maybe starting that conversation? And then we'll do the flip side. Like, if you are in therapy, how would you want a client to broach that with you, or something of that sort?
Right. Well, just really quickly, I'll hit on both a little bit. I mean, I think if you're not in therapy or seeing a coach or someone in the mental health field in any way, I would look into that, right? So they're going online, if that's the place you want to start, or, you know, talking to other people. I mean, I don't know about for Tremaine, but for me, one of my best referral, you know, sources is word of mouth. So I think it's important that you find someone that you connect with, and you won't know that until you have an interaction with them. So looking online, looking up I don't want to quantify it in any way, but you want to look for people that maybe have a profile somewhere on a website about themselves. They don't necessarily have to have their own website, but you want to kind of get a feel for them before you make that first call. You want to ask maybe for a brief consult to just see what you're feeling, what feelings you get about them, what feelings may come up for you, and being able to share with them a little bit. If there's someone that someone else knows that can make a referral, just placing that call. The call is the first step. The call is not, you're not signing your life away. You're not saying, I'm committing to seeing this person to the rest of the time. You know, it's not. Therapy belongs to the client. This is their time. This is their space. This is their commitment. This is their investment in themselves. So if after one session or after 5 sessions, you feel like, you know what, this isn't a good fit, thanks, but no thanks, and look elsewhere. Don't give up, though, because it's you're giving up on, not the therapist, right? And then if you're already in therapy, or you've started already, and you're trying to find the words to say and to, you know, muster up what you're experiencing, actually, I think your therapist or your coach would kind of help you with that. They should have a type of assessment and questionnaire that they give, and if not your first session, then at least your second, where they're kind of asking, you know, what's going on, what are you presenting with, how are you feeling, and what kind of, you know, things are going on. Sometimes I do find that when professionals are able to be contacted via email first, or in some writing mechanism, that can be helpful. I feel like sometimes people can't find the words when they have to do it verbally initially, but when they're reaching out trying to find that person, they can type about it a little bit better. I mean, this is before you've, you know, gotten in the room. But usually I think it's the environment and the safety you feel once you're in the space. And then I think it'll come. I think it'll come with the help of the therapist or the coach, with the help of them. So I don't.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
well,
Jermaine?
yeah, I agree with everything Miss Tiffany said. I think for me, it's important to realize that working on yourself is hard, no matter what the issue is. You know that there are no elevators; you have to take the stairs, right? So
Wow.
I think for me, it's important to know whether you're just beginning or whether you're actually in treatment. It's going to be difficult work, but it's not something that you can't accomplish. There's no hurdles placed in front of you that will prevent you from uh, accomplishing your goals, right? It just depends on how hard you're willing to work. I think if you're not in treatment or working with a professional, I think it's just important to talk. You know what I mean? To talk to somebody. I think it's important to realize in today's society, um, the society is more accepting of depression, with more celebrities championing the cause, and just more commercials you see about it, and athletes and things like that. So I think now people are more accepting to the fact that it's okay to have depression and deal with it, which wasn't the case when I was growing up. You kind of didn't talk about it. You know what I mean? So now I think it's okay for people to work. It's not a taboo for people to say they're in therapy or working with a life coach or things like that. So I think in today's day, it's more accepting. And if you're in treatment, I think it's just important to just talk to your therapist. Any good mental health professional will be able to ask you leading questions to see what's going on with you. And like Ms. Tiffany said, it's really important to interview your therapist, your coach, your psychiatrist. Interview them, ask them questions that you want to know about them. And you make a decision based on your fit, based on that. And like she said, it doesn't matter if it's 1 session, 5 sessions. Like, you have to feel comfortable in a room, because if you don't feel comfortable in a room, you'll never really work the way that you need to work, right? And you also need to trust your mental health professional, because you're trusting them, that you're giving them this part of yourself, and that they know what to do to help you take care of yourself. So I hope that answers the question.
No, for sure. I think that's all great, great, great stuff. I don't know if anybody has any questions in the OV platform, but if you want to shoot anything out based on the conversation we're having, feel free. Yeah, I think we got about 20-ish minutes. If we get to that, if not, it's cool. So if you guys have any questions, just feel free to pop them in the chat box. I am watching. But in the same vein of what we're talking about, can we just, anything you guys want to say about the importance of mental health? I think we're in a interesting time, or I wouldn't even, mental health sometimes sounds like a term that's like, again, one of those like buzzword terms, but just mental wellness. I think that we're in a day and age where people are really excited about, physical wellness and physical health and all that kind of stuff, which is all well and good. But also, like, what I think we're in an interesting time where, like you said, Jermaine, the conversation and the dialogue is open more about mental health or mental wellness. So can you guys just kind of speak to being in the profession, but also just as human beings, like, why is that such an important thing that we kind of champion and keep the lines of communication open about this kind of thing?
I think to kind of piggyback off what Tremaine just said, talking is really just the key word. I don't want to take the term mental health and make it just about something as simple as that, because obviously there are varying degrees of what mental health and what mental illness looks like, and how it affects everyone. But I do think for years in certain communities and cultures, it's been a taboo about mental or about therapy and coaching and just seeking any type of professional for your personal stuff. And what I appreciate about the mental health field and where it is now is that that myth is being dispelled. You are not crazy if you go to therapy. You are not, something is not wrong with you, and there's no not coming back from that thing, whatever that may be, if you go to therapy or if you don't go to therapy. When you hear about all the tragic things that are happening in the world and our country in particular, and it being due to mental health, my opinions on all that is a little something we're not going to talk about right here.
More or less.
I definitely do believe there are a lot of these scenarios. What they do share in common is that these have been hurting people. These have been people that are very hurt and very broken in ways and areas that they never sought help for. And And I think what that help looked like might have been scary to them or intimidating, or maybe they had reason to believe it just wouldn't be effective. But I feel like you'll never know unless you try.
Mm-hmm.
I think therapy actually should be a lifestyle for people. Maybe not forever, right? It's different strokes for different folks. I am a therapist, so who believe I'm in therapy? That's just what I have to do. My therapist is my accountability partner. She's my coach. She's my, she keeps me grounded and where I know I need to be, because it can be challenging to see a lot of people that in their words are suffering and in my words are growing, and how do you make the two become one, right? How do you do that? That takes a lot of work. So it's work that I feel I'm called and here to do. So I'm more than honored to, but I know that I'm human too. And I got stuff. I got an inner critic. I got family and relationships and a job. And, I live in the same world that we live in. So I got stuff just like the next person. So I think just normalizing mental health. I love the term mental and in other areas, wellness, which is why I look at therapy and coaching as like a lifestyle, if you will, choice at different seasons of your life, because it's something that helps add to the different areas of our life that we need to be healthy and functional and as happy as possible along the way. And I know happiness comes in spurts. I know that's not a constant mood or whatever, right? I know that, but I know that I know that I'm not going to get there by myself, right? I know that I'm not going to get there without the help and the connection of other people. So, and that's what therapy and coaching oftentimes is, just creating a safe space for you to kind of let all that stuff out. It's necessary. It hurts. I love it. You can only take the stairs. There's no elevator in this process. I love that, Tremaine. Couldn't have said it better. But
he says it to me every week too. So.
Right, that's good stuff, and I love it. But at the end of the day, and everybody count their steps and stuff now. Anyway, you can't count no steps on the elevator, right? What kind of progress you gonna see on the elevator? You can't count steps on the elevator. So,
Facts. Tremaine, I don't know if you want to add something real quick, and then I'll jump. I see the people in OV talking, so I'll let Tremaine make his point, and then I'll come back to you guys. So, yeah, bro.
Just really quick, following up what Miss Tiffany said, I am a warrior for mental health because I think it's so important. I think any good mental health professional has their own therapist or coach that they work with on a continuous basis because, like Miss Tiffany said, we live in the world with everyone else, and we can also see how sometimes when people are struggling, how if they get some help, some connection from a professional, there might be some progress there. Because a lot of times people think that they can't figure things out they can't figure things out. And at the end of the day, it's just a growth process. And if you remember when you were going through puberty, you had growth spurts and your knees hurt, your feet start hurting because you're growing. Well, it's the same thing that happens in your feelings. When you're growing, and emotions, like when you're growing, it hurts. And you just have to sort of stick it out in the mud.
Yeah.
Facts. Great points. I apologize if you guys heard all of that. I'm actually at a family gathering, so the babies just came in. My uncles just came in. It's people all over the house. So apologize for that if you guys heard that. But thank you all. Those are beautiful points. Mental wellness is very, very important. I just wanted to jump to the OV. Teresa, I think it is profound that the African you and religious you made up the biggest critics, aka Katrina. Can I expand on why I chose Katrina to be made up of those characters? Actually, very interesting question. Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate it. Wait until we got to it. So for me, I'm glad that you got that nuance. So to me, at the beginning of the movie, those characters are parts of my personality. If you look at the saint, that's sort of a religious figure of sorts, and this sort of African, more sort of grounded character, personality trait. And so to me, that's about balance. I don't necessarily know. I mean, it could mean something different to other people. I just know for me, like I grew up in a very religious family, but I also grew up in a very artistic family. So sometimes those things seem to to collide and clash, but there's good things that come out of both of those sort of personality traits. And so for me, it was more so about when those things are unbalanced, that's how you get an inner critic. And then at the same time, when they are balanced, they can come together to counteract that situation as well. So that's kind of what it's about for me, in terms of just finding balance within your personality so that you don't lean too far to the left or too far to the right. Let's see. Kim, I suffer from depression. It can be debilitating. I have been in therapy and I'm getting back on stage as a comedian and talking about it. Awesome. Miss Kim, I think I know exactly who this is. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's awesome. She also said, it's scary and lonely and very real. Just I applaud you. Thank you. Thank you. She said therapy has helped, also prayer. Listen, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, I am a person of faith, and so I do very much believe in prayer. But I also know that, especially people of color, we sometimes lean on that a little too much. And it's like, yo, do both. I'm like, there's a reason, like, Jesus had a prayer life and he had the disciples. Like, he had him and his boys. So there was a balance of not just, this vertical relationship, between himself and God, but also horizontally. I think it's very important. We see that in scripture time and time again of people of God reiterating that, it's not good for man to be alone. There's strength in community, right? And so, I like to think of myself and Tremaine as a team, myself and Miss Tiffany as a team. Like, you got to have hitters, you know what I mean? Because sometimes you might not be where you need to be. Sometimes the vertical relationship might be off and you might need, some extra support. So I think it's a matter of having all that in connection to each other. Let's see, Ebony here. You said visually this was a dope film. Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely love the writing on the wall and how you fought to change your narrative. Did you intentionally use a brick wall? That stood out to me because in my thought life, the process just seemed like I was running into a brick wall when I was trying to make changes. Very astute. I like when people pay attention to the little things. I don't know. It's actually not as intentional as you would think. We actually filmed the movie in my mom's office space, and so where her office space is, there's a brick wall. We use it for quite a few things. And so, yeah, I guess it kind of ended up being symbolic and one of those, like, that's how creativity works, overarching kind of ways. And that there is, where you do kind of feel like you're hitting a brick wall time and time again in certain situations and trying to change your mindset, trying to change the negative thoughts that are in your head or negative patterns in life. And so that's why having, therapists, if you have it, are good. A community of people is always excellent. Prayer is always great, as well, if you're, juxtaposing that in conjunction. And so, yeah, if you feel like hitting a brick wall, even brick walls come down. You just got to keep knocking at that thing. So it might not happen overnight, but you just gotta keep going for it. Keep going for it. Ms. Kim, you say, yes, I agree. Listen, I can't just pray the depression away. That is very, very true. And I think that's important. I don't know if we want to get into this is a thing too. I guess, is there feedback, guys? I keep getting that there's feedback on my end, and I'm not 100% sure why. I have everything turned down, but sorry. Bear with the technical difficulties. I completely lost my train of thought there. Does anybody remember what I was talking about?
I think you were about to ask about the process of a prayer life and actual practicality.
I was going to say, we're talking about a conjunction of things. So, if we're talking about community, therapy, your squad, do we want to have if you need medicine conversation? How do you broach that? What is you all's sort of, I don't know, philosophy on that, or what do you think? I mean, I love, Tremaine, you mentioned it. So many people in the culture are talking about, this epidemic that we have of self-medication. J. Cole's KOD was one of my favorite albums of the year, just because of that, talking about the sort of epidemic, especially with younger kids. It's all in the music now about, if you're just feeling bad, like, just medicate, you'll feel better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what are you guys' opinions on that?
I believe that we have medication for a reason. I do believe that it is. There are cases where it is necessary. I just do not believe that it is up to you to determine that. I believe in getting evaluations from a medical professional to see if you know, that would be something that would be beneficial based on what you're experiencing and how it's presenting itself. That's probably the condensed version of that I got. Jermaine, you want to add a little something?
I kind of follow your train of thought. I definitely think that medication plays a role in the healing process. I'm not so much of a fan of medication right away, but I'm much of a fan of going through the assessment process, the diagnosing process, trying to actually figure out what's going on through your own vices. But if you are taking medication, which it's helpful for some people, my advice is to actually be under the care of your doctor or your prescribing clinician, because so many times we don't understand the effects of completely stopping the medication and how that has a spike in your mood, your feelings, your emotions. So it's really important, if you're going to go that route of healing and use medication as an assistant to your work in the room. Okay, so not as a replacement, as an assistant to your work in the room. It's important to be under the care of your prescribing clinician so that you can let them know, hey, this is working. I'm feeling weird when I take this. It isn't working. So many times we just stop taking the medication, or, you know, we self-medicate and take the medication. So we're kind of counteracting what the process is supposed to be. And, you know, for anybody who likes sports, there's this new term. It's called trust the process. So things might look ugly in the beginning, but as you go through the process and at the end, you know, the flower starts to bloom. So trust the process.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I see these comments as well. Yeah, hopefully we take all that, you know, like I'm really passionate about the whole medication thing. I think it's a little too far out there. Because like you said, Tremaine, people try to, I guess, substitute one for the other. And again, I think it should be a combination and a balance of both. And, you know, that you are an advocate for your health. And so if you are taking medication and it's not feeling too hot, please, you know, make sure you communicate that and don't just be, I don't know, getting it from the homies or anything like that. It's not really the look either. You know, a medical professional, please, or someone in the mental health field. Let's not abuse, you know, these things that are meant to help us. Getting back, Cam, I love that there was no dialogue and that you truly showed your that you truly showed your struggle as a filmmaker. Thank you so much. Millie Rock, what's up? She said, with such a powerful message, do you have plans on sharing this for workshop or conference purposes? We absolutely do. That's actually part of the process of why we're continuing doing these talkbacks, just kind of asking, you know, folks, what are they getting? What are they not getting? What would they like more information on? And so, yes, we do. We're working on a workshop or conference. If you know anybody that might, you know, want to have us come screen the film, might have Tremaine and Miss Tiffany if they're available, or any. We got a squad of professionals here. I'm an artist. I'm not a professional in mental health arena by any stretch of the imagination. So just here to help with art. I know empathy is very important, and so however we can help. If you have a church organization, a school, anything, yeah, we would love to come. Hopefully, yes, Teresa, thank you. I don't know what's going on with these mics. This is a new computer for me. I'm sorry for the echo. Kim said it's very difficult to diagnose the brain and then drug. I've seen it on a few and they didn't work. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of how you're gonna, you know, advocate for yourself about whether something is working for you or not. Teresa, Katrina falling off the building turned into dust before hitting the ground. She died and we made the decision to push and not when she hit the ground. It appeared as if it was more important to push than it was to fall. What was your intent? Hi, Jason. That's her spouse, which is like my brother. So shout out to the Wallace family. The dust part of falling off the building is really just as a filmmaker, people always tell you like people they like calling responses in film. So if you set something up in the beginning, you want to make sure you bring it back in the end. And so the dust is sort of the cryptic part of the personality. I don't know if anybody remembers that in the beginning of the film, but all that dust that the saint was seeing, a black dust, was sort of like, oh, the cryptic is coming in. This is another part of my balance or my personality that I don't want to acknowledge. And so that push off is sort of just the character of Tess taking her power back from Katrina and her going back into the form of that dust and sort of black dust being sort of negativity and that whole thing. So that was kind of like the impetus. I hadn't really thought about her hitting the ground versus, I don't know. I just wanted the magical element of dust in that whole situation coming back into play as we established it at the top of the film. And yeah, just having that pile of ash was really representative, something deep to me, I guess. I like to leave room for people to, leave their own interpretations, which is very important to me. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Now that the question's out there, if y'all saw something different, I'm all for that. Once you put it out there, it belongs to you all. So we got about 2 minutes left before this lovely platform of ours ends our situation. So thank you so much to Jermaine and Miss Tiffany Shanks for being on here with us. I don't know if you guys want to shout out your information. If people are like, I like them, I don't want to talk to them on the phone, or send an email. So if you have any info you want to share with people real quick, that'd be wonderful.
I gladly will give my information. My email is TiffanyShanksTherapy@gmail.com. Everything spelled traditionally, just how it sounds. TiffanyShanks Therapy, THERAPY@gmail.com. And my number is 818-493-9580. That's 818-493-9580.
Hi, and I can be reached at t.walker03@yahoo.com. That's t.walker03@yahoo.com, or 818-288-1831. That's 818-288-1831. Thank you.
See, Jermaine got bat phones and things. You got to keep all the numbers straight. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you all so much for coming on and just giving up your time. Thank you for everybody that's been here for, taking time away from your family in the holidays. And I hope everybody had an amazing Thanksgiving. I meant to start that way, but yeah, it is what it is. If you guys are interested in seeing the film again, we're just trying to do encore screenings on Thursday. Like sometimes people get here late or something of the such. So we're gonna be showing it again on Thursday. So make sure you guys pop back in. Follow us at My Critic Movie on IG and Facebook, and we will see you all next time. Have a wonderful evening. Bye, guys. Bye.